Hey, it's Jeff Zito. Thanks for checking out another episode of the Celebrity Jobber podcast. Currently this week, sitting at number 6 here in the United States on the Apple Podcast Music Interviews chart. So thanks to everybody who's listening and supporting the Celebrity Jobber podcast. Please hit that subscribe button wherever you listen, whether it's on Apple Podcast or Spotify. Please subscribe. Would love a 5-star rating, and if you could please leave a comment and or a review. That would be awesome. Coming up on 200 episodes, and you can check out all of them if you want to by going to celebrityjobber.com. You can also follow on Instagram, celebrity_jobber_podcast. And also you can see all the videos on youtube.com/the@celebrityjobber. So who are these people? Like we know them for being famous, right? They're celebrities, they're actors, they're musicians, they're comedians. But who were they before the fame? They were regular people for the most part. You know, my guest last week, Lucas Haas, the actor who's like best friends with Leonardo DiCaprio, his first job was like at 6 years old as an actor in like a huge movie. So not everybody started out like that. Usually people had a different life before fame. And that is the case with this week's guest, comedian Jeff Arcuri. We'll find out a little bit about his life before fame. And he definitely got more famous in the beginning of July because he just launched a comedy special on Netflix, which is absolutely huge, called Jeff Arcuri, Nice to Meet You. So we'll hear all about who he was before he was a comedian, maybe what he planned on doing, and some of his earlier jobs, his first job, to be more specific. You might be familiar with Jeff's wife, who's a former Bachelorette star, Katie Thurston, and she's going through some pretty heavy stuff in her life, so we'll talk about that. Comedian Jeff Arcuri is my guest this week on Celebrity Jobber.
The Celebrity Jobber podcast with Jeff Zito. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, give a 5-star rating, and leave a review. Check out all our past episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you pod. What if these celebrities weren't famous? What would they have become? What was their first job? We're about to find out.
There he is. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Great. I didn't see you at the meeting, Jeff. The Jeff meeting.
I got to tell you, I'm a big fan of this comedy special on Netflix. This reminds me of Nate Bargatze about 5 years ago. I had to ask him how to pronounce his last name, and then all of a sudden he started playing these theaters. I go to your website, sold out for like the next year. So
yeah, it's magical, man. I'm living the dream right now. I'm really excited. It's hard to consider myself anywhere near, Nate's 5 years ago, but I take that compliment. Thank you.
But tell me what happened. Was there like a magical moment that happened to you to where, I mean, it was just maybe a year or so ago, you're playing comedy clubs. Now you're playing to theaters, and we're talking about 3,000 people. So yeah. Where did this happen? What was this? Was there like a moment that triggered all of this?
Honestly, I could probably route it all the way back to when I got passed at the Comedy Cellar. When I auditioned and got accepted there, I spent 6 months there just quietly doing well. And I realized I was scared of the internet. I was scared of posting videos of myself because of any type of like negative criticism, things like that. And the Cellar kind of gave me that confidence where I'm like, if I'm doing really well in front of the same audiences where Dave Chappelle is doing really well and they're clapping just as loud for me as they are to every other comedian, why can't I post online? I'm just going to give it a shot. And I just started throwing things at the wall and throwing things online. And that was August of 2022 is when I started my social media. I didn't really have anything before that. And then it was just skyrocketed from there. Like it just started doing really well I've been doing clubs for years, I've been doing clubs like for a long time before that, but never like for my audiences, for people that were there to come see me specifically. It was just doing the runs, And so it was just it's a surreal experience having everyone there, and I remind myself that every night that I go out and perform, I go, there's 1,000, 2,000 people out there that just want to see you. It's you can never take that for granted. You got to appreciate that every single time. It's crazy.
Wow. So you're from Monroe, Michigan, born.
No. I was born in New York.
Oh, okay. Boy, the internet. I tell you, the internet
That's
is
okay.
right on the mind. Okay, so
You still got
born
Nate
in.
Bargatze's sheet up there or something.
Yeah, I
That's
do.
what-
I do. Right. So
No,
you're from New York. Okay.
I am. I lived in Michigan. My family lives there now. I don't know where Monroe is, but I know that
It's
I moved.
right over here.
Is it over in the
Yeah.
thumb? Okay, yeah. They live right over here around Detroit is where my
Right.
family lives now. But I grew up in New York, and then I moved there when I was like 15, and then I moved to Chicago when I was like 22 to start comedy a little more seriously. And then
Gotcha.
I moved back to New York in 2017. So it's been almost 10 years back in New York doing clubs here and stuff.
Got to be tough coming up in the New York circuit. They're probably not as forgiving as if you came up in somewhere in the Midwest, right?
Well, that's the thing is I spent 8 or 9 years in the Midwest kind of honing it. And then I came to New York to do comedy like, hey, let's kind of go to the big leagues. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I waited because, yeah, it's brutal to get started out here. It's even harder to almost get restarted because you could spend 10 years on the road to establishing yourself. You get to New York, that means nothing here. You have to start over. You have no chops here. You have nothing that, you can bring with you except the fact that you've been doing it so long. So it's dog eat dog, but it's worth it, man. New York's great for it.
And your style of comedy is a little different. You do a lot of crowd work. Tell me, was that always your shtick, if you will, or did
Sure.
New York City kind of bring that out of you? Because that busting balls is a big part of being a New Yorker.
Sure. I wouldn't say New York did it for me. I was doing a lot of cruise ships and things like that I was kind of killing time and filling time and having fun with the crowd work. And then that kind of became so naturally part of my set where I'm not just walking around poking at people saying, what do you do? What do you do? I'll have a topic, whether it's about marriage or buying a house, whatever it may be. And I'll kind of pitch the topic to the audience first to see how they relate to it. And then I go into my act. But there's a way of just bringing the audience in and personalizing each set that makes it unique. So I love to do that just to kind of make it more of a unique, every set being different type of vibe.
The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito. The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito.
Anybody ever cry? Have you ever made somebody cry?
I did actually. I did. I did. I felt so bad. A girl was on her phone and was just lit up and the phone was going off. And I kind of made an example of her where I was making fun of her, but she didn't know it and the whole audience knew it. And I just remember this moment because I remember being like, I referenced her again. And I looked at her and she was like crying and I was like mortified. I threw the mic down. I stopped the show. I knelt down and I had my hand on her shoulder and I just talked to her and I was just like, I want to apologize. I don't never want to make anybody feel ostracized in my rooms, blah, blah, blah. Like no one else was hearing this except her. And then I grab the mic and I go, I tell you what, I'm going to take care of your guys' drinks tonight and make sure you guys have a good night. And she just goes, let's do shots. And I was like, oh, never mind to all this. I stopped the show to be a nice guy and then ended up being like, but she ended up being very sweet, but it was funny how quickly she was able to turn. I was actually happy about that. Like having her be like, all right, cool. I'm back in the show now.
What about the opposite side of that? Anybody try to throw a punch at you?
Ooh, actually, the beginning of my special, oddly enough, we used the second show we recorded, not because the first show wasn't good, but it was just that there was some issues with production. Like I kept getting lost with not knowing because it's a fully round stage. But the beginning of the special is a clip from the first show where I'm in the middle of my set talking about my wife and some guy kind of heckles me and it's just like, gotta give it to her. Like it was just being rude.
Right.
And I stopped the show and I kind of let him know that's not cool. And I make fun of him in a way that sets him off, I guess. And so what you don't see is I start the show and I go, rest of you guys, can't wait to get to know you. But the way I didn't know this till after we shot it, that my tour manager was like, yeah, he was like losing his mind. He was saying that you were talking about his wife and he was just wasted. And I was like, wow, I'm so glad we got him out of there. But I didn't bring up his wife. I didn't bring up any of that. It's recorded and it's how we start the special. So
Right.
apparently he had to get like headlock pulled out of the room, and my tour manager and that staff at the Celebrity Theater is so good. I had no idea. I'm just up there talking, moving, jiving, and I had no clue someone was getting dragged out of the venue because they
Jeff,
were.
where did
Yeah.
this all come from? Where did comedy come from? Like, what did your mom and dad do? Like what kind of jobs did they have, and how did you get here?
Dude, I will say anybody that knew me as a child is incredibly surprised this is what I do. I was very shy, very quiet. I grew up in a house full of women in my house, so I chose my words carefully. If I had to say something, it was going to be funny, because it was just a very loud, chaotic house. So I didn't really have a lot of time. I was the third child, the youngest, so the attention-seeking child, and I got that through comedy. I was just maybe trying to be funny for my family, trying to be funny for my parents, and that's how it started. But
So your
pretty
parents
quiet
had
kid.
regular jobs. They weren't into show business or anything.
Not at all. No, no. My parents are very, very humble, very off-camera people. They're not comedians. I would say my parents are also the funniest people, in the world to me. And
Right.
but they just aren't trying and they don't know it.
So, what about you? What did you do before comedy? Did you have a path in college? Were you studying certain major? Were you going to go into a different field? And tell me about some of your early jobs before comedy, or to support your comedy career early on.
Sure. I was at one point right before comedy, I was trying everything. That's what made me start comedy. I sold a cell phone to a comedian, and then he taught me how to like get through like the beginning stages of it.
Oh
And
wow!
yeah, that was just by chance, just because I was a salesman. I was just doing sales for a long time. I was doing cell phone sales for the first couple of years. I was doing comedy, and then I moved to Chicago. I was doing financial sales, and then I was doing like real estate sale. Like it was all like sales and over the phone and talking with people, not to people or at somebody. I'm talking with somebody a lot of the time. So that kind of got me out of my shell in terms of conversation and stuff. Yeah, but it was all that. And then honestly, the better I started doing in comedy, the worse my jobs got because
Really?
I needed to appease the comedy. So I went from selling financial products in a high rise in Chicago to walking dogs in Manhattan.
Right.
I had dogs that if they died, I wouldn't have paid rent. Like I
Wow.
was hanging on to some of these dogs because they were keeping me alive, and that was just a few years ago. Like 3 years ago.
And what was your very first job? Very first job, very first paycheck.
Dishwasher at a pizzeria in Michigan. Yeah.
What kind
Not
of
where I grew up.
Detroit style pizza or what?
Yeah, like the grandma crust, like the
Yeah.
golden
Yeah.
crust squares. Oh,
Yeah.
it's so good. It was Guido's Pizza. And
Guido's Pizza. Okay.
yeah, Guido's Pizza in Michigan. And it was, oh my God, to this day, I still stand by it. I was proud of that pizza that I was making there. They had great product.
Me and Artie Lang went to the same barber, which was Guido in Union, New Jersey. Guido and Aldo. So guess he cuts hair as well as he makes pizza. So that's pretty
That's
good stuff.
great.
Tell me a little bit about your wife, Jeff. I know that she was on The Bachelorette. You make a lot of you put that in your act,
Yeah.
and she's currently battling breast cancer. I understand.
Yes.
The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito. Celebrity Jobber.
Tell me a little bit about your wife, Jeff. I know that she was on The Bachelorette. You make a lot of you put that in your act,
Yeah.
and she's currently battling breast cancer. I understand.
Yes. Yeah. So that's what's I think is so special about this special is that a lot of times comedians will spend, 10 years, especially for debut specials, kind of honing jokes and things like that. This special is very personal to me because back in February of last year, so 15, 16 months ago, my wife was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer, and it threw us for a loop. Like it was unexpected. We were leaving planning on leaving the country for 3 months following that diagnosis. And we got the diagnosis and had to switch everything. We changed the tour up. I rescheduled my tour for later. We started treatment. And she's just to make everyone okay, is that she's kicking cancer's butt right now. And I mentioned that in the special. She's doing so well.
Great.
She's actually right here beside me. She's beautiful and healthy, and I love her.
That's awesome.
And it's a lot of the special is talking about what we had to go through. So it's the initial phases of it, how we dealt with it through comedy. We went through IVF because that was something we needed to decide if we wanted kids. They were like, you got a couple weeks to know, because otherwise you have to start treatment. So it was all of that, and how life was kind of truncated into this 8-month period of ours. And that's why I'm so proud of the special, is I was able to go through all of this and write about it and deliver it within 10 months of it happening in my life.
Wow, that's pretty heavy. It's pretty heavy, but I'm glad to hear that everything is going in the right direction for you and her. So, I was watching the trailer for the special, and you were explaining your wife was on The Bachelorette, and she dates all these different guys. And I couldn't help but think to myself, well, I guess that is a lot better than being a contestant on Rock of Love, marrying her.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to look at the bright side of these things. Like, that's definitely
100%.
Definitely better than being a contestant on Rock of Love. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a show with Bret Michaels, and you've got all these strippers vying for his love and affection.
Yeah.
Your website, Jeff, like I just said, for people, the comedy special, Nice to Meet You. Did you name it Nice to Meet You because this is kind of your coming out to everybody?
Yeah, it's a little double meaning. The other reason is because we didn't notice this till we were watching the edit. But I basically, whenever I interact with a crowd member, I introduce myself and say, nice to meet you, because it's a personal moment. So I always say, nice to meet you, man. And then I go into what I say. So it's just kind of a running theme through my crowd work, but it is also a nod to, hey, nice to meet everybody. This is my debut. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. And your website, I just want people to know, he's coming. I mean, he's got tour dates booked for a year ahead of time, okay? And they all say sold out next to him. So are you going to be adding any shows to some of those?
Yes. Yeah. My agent is great with making sure that if there's a demand, we fill it. So usually what we'll do is there's a lot of wait lists and things. So if you go to my website and you say, oh man, he's not coming to Boise, or he's not coming to Omaha, wherever it may be, if you see the tickets there, hit that wait list button, and then we'll have like, hey, we can add another show now because we have 200 people waiting, or whatever it may be.
Awesome. And what is the website? Is it jeffarcuri.com?
Yep, jeffarcuri.com, and then /shows if you want to just jump to that. But otherwise, all my info is on my website. Yeah.
That's so cool, man. I mean, here it is. Like, get ready to start seeing this guy all over the place, because this is how it happens. I do a lot of these. I talk to a lot of comedians. They're in a club one day, next day they're in a theater, next day they're in a movie. So yeah, good luck to you, man. Is that the ultimate goal, Jeff? What's the ultimate goal? That'd
be great, But ultimately, my goal would be just be involved with good people on a project that I feel passionate about. And right now, that's just me doing stand up and being with my wife. So for right now, that's my goal.
The new special is on Netflix. Jeff Arcuri, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, Jeff. And
nice to meet you.
Good luck the rest of the way, and fingers crossed. Really, really good stuff, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Jeff. See ya.
Take care. Okay, so he's not from Michigan. He was born in New York City. It said on the internet he was born and raised in Michigan. But anyway, it's a quick lesson for everybody. The internet is not always right. He was the youngest of his family. He was attention-seeking, grew up in a house full of women. So he said he tried to make his family laugh, and that's where he thinks comedy came from. His parents are not comedians. He said they're just regular, off-camera type people. But he did mention he thinks that his family are the funniest people to him. Kind of amazing that he mentioned 3 years ago he's walking dogs. He was also supporting himself, in the comedy clubs. But here we are, all of those comedy clubs that he was playing in, he's instantly graduated to the theater So when he performed in comedy clubs for a couple of hundred people, they didn't necessarily come to see him, but now they are. Crowds of 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people. And if you go to his website, jeffarcuri.com, you'll see every date booked between now and next year. Sold out, sold out, sold out. And so what was it? How did he get there? What was his big break? He pretty much says it was because of social media. He said back in 2022, he really wasn't a big fan of posting his stuff. He was worried about the criticism. And then he got a little confidence, as he started working at the Comedy Cellar. So he started posting some of his stuff online and it blew up, and that's basically where he is now. I actually think his real quote unquote big break is ahead of him. And because of the success on social media, he has graduated from performing in clubs to now theaters, which hold 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people. He got the courage to actually pursue comedy after selling a cell phone to a comedian. So he said basically that was his line of work before he got into comedy. He also sold financial products in Chicago. And I can see, in the world of sales, you have to have kind of a gift of gab, and maybe being in the sales industry, kind of gave him the confidence to get up there and start talking to people on stage. His very first job, though, was not in sales. It was while he was living in Michigan, and he worked at a pizza place, washing dishes, Guido's Pizza. And outside of comedy, his last job was as a dog walker. So just 3 years ago, this guy was supporting himself by walking dogs and, doing comedy clubs. It really wasn't that long ago. And he mentioned how important that job was to him because he needed that job, he said, or else he wasn't going to be able to live. Talked about his wife, Katie Thurston, from the reality TV show The Bachelorette, and how she is currently battling breast cancer. But he says that, through treatment, she seems to be in a really good place now. So my fingers are crossed for both Jeff and his wife, Katie. Exciting times for comedian Jeff Arcuri. He's come a long way from washing dishes at a pizza restaurant and, of course, walking dogs. But it was when he was a salesperson, maybe polished him up a little bit and gave him the confidence to get up on stage and try comedy. Jeff Arcuri, nice to meet you. Currently streaming right now on Netflix. We haven't seen the last of Jeff Arcuri, that's for sure. Well, thanks again for listening to another episode of the Celebrity Jobber Podcast. Please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, if you could, would love a 5-star rating, and please leave a comment and or a review. I hope I'm not asking too much of you, but it is pretty important to me, so thanks again. I read some of the comments on the podcast, even the bad ones, and maybe your suggestions for who you want to hear coming up on the Celebrity Jobber Podcast. Next week, going to be our 200th episode. 4 years straight of doing this. Never missed a week. I think 1 week I did very, very early on because we got hit with a hurricane. I didn't have power for about 5 or 6 days. All the past guests and episodes are on celebrityjobber.com. Go back and listen to some of them. Some really famous people with some great stories about their life before fame. So thanks again for listening. Next week, episode 200. I'll see you back here on the Celebrity Jobber Podcast. I'm Jeff Zito.